Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Wayne with Wayne's Fish World. Thanks for tuning in to another video today, guys. In this video, we're going to be talking about sumps. Do I need a sump on my tank? What's it going to do for me? Are they necessary? Can I survive without them? And how to actually go about and set one up. Now, I'll tell you this, guys, right now. No, you do not need a sump on your tank. It is not absolutely necessary. How do you guys think they did it back in old school days? They had undergravel filters. Now, we know not to use undergravel filters. They still work, but they're not advised anymore. So, what does a sump do? It does multiple things. The main thing it does is, well, two main things. One, it adds extra water volume to your tank, leading to more stable water parameters. Now, how that works is, I use this example all the time. Imagine if you drop one little drop of oil in a 10-gallon tank. What effects would it have on a reef tank? It would be catastrophic. Now, if you drop that one little drop of oil in a 100-gallon tank, it's still going to be bad, but it's going to be spread out more. The effects are going to be spread out. It's not going to be as bad. So, a sump is going to promote more stable water parameters because you've got a larger water volume. Also, what a sump does, it houses all your filtration and equipment without having it in your display tank. You won't see any tubings, any pipes, any hoses, or whatever in your display tank because everything is concealed under your cabinet or in another room. It's in your sump. So, what are the basic components of a sump? Now, there's many ways to go about it. You need to find out what you need on your system first, because no two systems are the same. You might need calcium reactors, you might need phosphate reactors, you might need nitrate reactors or carbon reactors. You might need that, or you might need to go a different route like I did. My main problem with my system is nitrates. My well water has 40 ppm of nitrates, sometimes higher. If they're fertilizing the cornfields and vegetable fields everywhere, because I live in the country and I'm on a private well, all that fertilizer gets leached into my well water. So phosphates, nitrates, potassium, all that stuff is getting leached into my well water. That's why my plant tanks do good. But all that nutrient buildup goes into a saltwater tank and it's not good at all. So I bought myself an RODI unit and I love it. My nitrates are back down to zero, phosphates are at zero, everything's amazing. But beforehand, what I did is I set a tank up without a sump, and it was set up to the point where I never had to do water changes. It had a shallow sand bed, and I never did water changes, and it had no sump, no protein skimmer, and I still had zero nitrates. And how I achieved that is through anaerobic bacteria. Now you're saying to yourself, how in the hell did you have anaerobic bacteria in a sand bed, a shallow sand bed? Well, I never touched it. Well, bacteria accumulated so much it made the sand bed hard. It made it stiff. Over time, it became almost rock hard. That rock hard sand bed, under the final layers, had anaerobic bacteria growing in it, and that anaerobic bacteria soaked up the nitrates in my tank and leached it back out as nitrogen gas. You could see it bubbling in a shallow sand bed. Now, am I telling you that's going to work? No, it's not going to work. It might, but in order to happen, you need very fine sand, and you need maybe a year or two to establish. My old tank was running 4 or 5 years in its old location on the room upstairs. Now it's back downstairs. It's almost been a year since it's running, and it's back on track. I've got zero nitrates again. But what I did is I focused my tank on nitrate removal. My sump was set up mainly for nitrate removal. I'd never needed a sump if it wasn't for nitrate removal. And technically, I still don't need the sump. I could have done the same thing in the display tank. It's just I wanted to hide all my equipment. You got that wife factor, you got that girlfriend factor, and you got that mom factor. You want to make the women as happy as possible, because if you make the other people in your life happy with your tank, you're going to have more success with your tank. Your tank is going to be more successful. Because when you want to add more things to it, or change things to it, or hey honey, can I put it in this room instead of this room, or can I get a bigger tank, they're going to say, hey, you did so good on this tank, it's so pretty, it's not a mess, you don't splash water everywhere, it's not ugly, etc., etc. you don't have those factors, so it's more likely to have success. So, how I went about nitrate remover was a deep sand bed. This is a holding spot for anaerobic bacteria. I'm not going to get into it too much. If you want to see a video on deep sand beds, click right here. Now, the next stage is refugiums. If you guys are familiar with freshwater plants, it's the same concept. When nitrates are in my water column, these plants are going to take that nutrient, such as nitrates and phosphates and other nutrients, and soak it up and use it to grow. Then I have a shallow sand bed, just to anchor this macroalgae in. Then the water goes to a protein skimmer. The protein skimmers remove the organics, and you can see that black stuff. That's the organics, the poop in the water, and dissolved organics. It removes it from the water column before it has a chance to pass through the nitrogen cycle. And then, if you guys can see, this little pump right here, it's a little black pump right there behind the leaves. That feeds into a DIY coiled denitrator. I'll do a video on that one day. That feeds back into the tank with nitrogen-free water. All this water is filtered constantly to be removed, to have nitrate removed, and finally that return pump feeds back into the display. Now you're asking, where's your heater? Now let me show you where my heater's at, guys. Ooh, I'm getting old with my legs. Nah, I'm not old, I'm 21. But yeah, it's ugly back here, but I still have zero nitrates. This is the deep blue 55-gallon reef-ready pre-drilled tank. And there's a chamber in here where the water will never drain. So I said, hey, I don't want to put it in the sump because what if the water gets drained? What if tubing comes unloose and I drain my sump by accident? It can happen, and it has before. Well, that heater's going to be exposed. What if that heater's still on and it's still exposed? EHOMs aren't supposed to break, even if not underwater. They're not supposed to shock you, but there's always that factor. So I put it in there. Just the factor, it'll never come out of the water. So you guys are probably asking, what's that thing over there? Let me pull a chair up. That is my DIY auto top-off system. You guys don't need to have plugs and everything. What I did is I built a stand within the stand. It's gravity fed. The tubing's at the bottom of the tank, or almost the bottom of the tank. I suck on it, create a siphon. I went on eBay and purchased a float valve. And what that does is when the water level drops, that float valve opens up. The siphoned water comes rushing down and fills the tank back up. Now, if the siphon ever breaks, I've got a little slip fitting in there. I can pull the tubing apart and re-suck on it and recreate a siphon. Now, my lighting on the sump is a DIY LED light from Lowe's. It's equivalent to 75 watts and only uses about 15 watts roughly. And those bulbs can last around 27 years. More energy efficient. Right here is a DIY pre-filter. I'll get into this more later in another video, but it basically has a couple stages. An emergency door where the fish, if they get trapped, they can still survive, and I'll explain it later in another video. And this is where the mechanical filtration happens. The waste gets removed, and then chemical filtration. You can see a few media bags in there. And all these holes are drilled, and the water flows back into the tank, gets removed, filtered of nitrates, flows back into the main displays. So this tank is on cruise control now. I really don't even have to do water changes anymore, technically, because my tank is back on track. But I'm going to keep doing them because I'm debating on doing water changes or be ionic again. Water changes is the best thing to make your fish grow, so I think I'm going to keep doing water changes. 10% every week. Guys, you don't have to make this complex. If you have any questions, let me know. You don't have to go out and get Apex controllers, Neptune systems. You don't have to buy the most expensive things. You don't, really. You can keep it simple, save a little bit of money. I'm not telling you to be cheap, because if you be too cheap, you're going to run into problems. But if you can make it work, do your research, have a plan, have dedication, guys. That's all it takes, and a little bit of money. Comment, rate, and subscribe. If you have any questions at all, let me know. Send me a comment, hit me up with a message. If you need a subscription, let me know, guys. I'll subscribe to you. Please subscribe to my channel. I've got plenty of videos out there, not just on saltwater, but freshwater too. I've got a few pond videos out there, and when I say a few, I mean a lot. Later, guys. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to hit the like button, guys. Comment if you want. Only subscribe if you like the video. I don't want a subscriber if you're not going to watch my videos. I want you to enjoy my channel. So Guys, comment, rate, subscribe. If you need anything, let me know. See you guys next time. Later.